spring break, as I told some of you, I got my wisdom teeth removed and sadly got no funny video. Though that was a pain in and of itself, the real pain was in my mouth and jaw, where they use these clamps to keep my mouth wide open. A few days of being on painkillers, like ibuprofen, my jaw started to hurt really bad, so I asked my dad, the licensed chiropractor that he is, if he could help. I went to his office, he took me into a room, put two of these tiny needles into my face for like 20 minutes, and then I was good, totally fine. So my topic today is about the use of more alternative medicines to replace some harmful prescriptions. I'm qualified to talk about this topic because of my many hours of research and because I have experience with both alternative medicines and modern medicines. I have three main points I'd like to discuss in the body of my speech. My first main point will talk about the problems of prescription drugs. My second main point will talk about some of the causes for these problems. And then my third main point will discuss some possible solutions for the problems with prescription drugs. Let's start with some of the problems of prescription drugs. My first main point will talk about some of the problems with prescription drugs. A 2018 article published by the American Journal of Preventive Medicine by Lindsay Fairless, Brendan Sawyer, Noah Kozek, Kristen Snyder, Molly Jamar, Kate Jackson, Casey Lyons, Matthew Eisenberg, Tom Richards, Klaus Lemech, and Jonathan Weiner shows a statistic from a study showing roughly 67.8 of U.S. overdose deaths were caused because of prescription opioids. The study was also done in Maryland specifically that showed 515 opioid-related deaths in only 6 months. That's about 3 deaths a day. The second problem is that they are expensive. A 2019 article published by Generations and written by Shelley Leifold and Timothy Lash recount the expensiveness of prescriptions and the problems that come from those expenses. I hope you have a pen, paper, and calculator with you, because I'm about to throw a lot of numbers at you. Because of the cost of prescriptions, 13% of Americans knew at least one friend or family member who had died in the past 5 years because they couldn't afford those prescriptions. And that number of people that can't afford prescriptions has increased from 18.9 to 22.9% in just 9 months in 2019 alone, and it's still growing today. Nearly 45% of adults could be forced to file for bankruptcy if a major accident befell them. And the number we all wanted to know, the U.S. spends about 18% of their gross domestic product on health care, which comes up to about $3.6 trillion. And now that you know some of the problems that come with prescription drugs, I would like to move on and tell you some of the causes for these problems with prescription drugs. One of the causes for the problems, my second main point, is focused on the causes of these problems with prescriptions. One of the causes for the problems that come with prescription drugs is simply education. A Dan Lai 2020 article published by the Journal of Internal Medicine states that doctors who are less educated or attended a lower ranked college end up prescribing more opioids when they aren't needed, which adds along to the death rate of prescription opioid overdose. Another reason for these problems is because of government-related healthcare systems. The same 2019 article published in Generations, written by Shelley Leifold and Timothy Lash, talked about how most people on Medicare make on average $26,000 a year, but their annual out-of-pocket cost for healthcare is 1/5 of that. Even some of the government plans to help the poor and elderly end up costing us all. And now that you know some of the causes for the problems with prescription drugs, I would like to move on and talk about some of the possible solutions for these problems. My third main point is about the possible solutions for problems caused by prescription drugs. One of the main things that we can do is push more natural and alternative medicines into healthcare. A 2018 article written by Sandra Grace, Wayne Riley, Patrick de Permetier, Anne Vlas, and Daniel Zhang, published by the Journal of Australian Traditional Medicine Society, said that after the continent started implementing more natural and alternative medicines into their healthcare, they saved about $4 billion American dollars a year. To put it into perspective, Australia was spending about $20.8 billion American dollars a year on healthcare before they made a switch. So they saved about a fifth of the money that they used to put into healthcare. So if we use this ratio for the United States, where we spend $3.6 trillion a year on healthcare, we could save about $800 billion a year just from making the switch. Now, there are many forms of alternative medicine that have been proved effective for helping in the same way that prescription drugs do, but one of the most promising cost-effective ones is acupuncture. You might not be able to see it, but I actually do have acupuncture points in my face right now, thanks to the good doctor upstairs. 2 of these points are for just general good energy flow, but the 1 point here and the 1 point here that fell, which was on the other side, can actually help with digestion, helping it move more freely. A 2007 encyclopedia about alternative medicine, written by Dr. Gary Knoll from Bottom Line Books, talks about the concept of traditional acupuncture and how it is meant to be used in a way to let energy flow through the body. It has many advantages, such as helping with digestion, improving the immune system, helping produce dopamine, which is the chemical in our brains that makes us happy, relaxes the muscles, and can be used with chronic pain, like after wisdom teeth surgery. A study done in 2019 by Dr. Seid, Dr. Bombrace, Dr. Lee, Dr. Licursi, Dr. Stiles, and Dr. Quinn, which they published in the Complementary Therapies of Medicine, used acupuncture on sickle cell patients. They hired 6 licensed acupuncturists who did 90 treatments for each of the 24 patients who participated. 55 of those treatments had a 0 to 10 pain scale that the patients would rank before and after the treatment, while the others were on a 0 to 5 pain scale. With both a 0 to 10 and 0 to 5 pain scale, there was an average decrease in pain rating after the treatment by about 1 or 2 points, which shows a clear positive effect of acupuncture as a possible non-opioid substitute towards pain relief. So, in conclusion, I discussed the topic of natural medicines versus prescription drugs. There are 3 main points I focused on in the body of my speech. I first covered some of the problems with prescription drugs. Secondly, I discussed some of the problems that were caused by these prescription drugs. And finally, I discussed some possible solutions for prescription drugs, mainly by enacting more natural medicines into healthcare. I ended up recovering a few days faster than expected, and my dad said that these little needles definitely could have helped. So, my advice to you, next time you have bad back pain or you start to feel sick, don't immediately go for the drugs. Instead, find some more alternative medicines. Maybe dig up some old home remedies that your parents used to use. That will help us all in the future. Thank you. 1, 2, 3.